Good morning and welcome. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the UK, and here we are, a little bit behind schedule to do some crafting and things. So do come on in and join me, and hopefully we'll have a bit of a fun over the next little while. This is me in front of you. Morning, Lisa. If you want to check out any of my classes, you want to go and find some blog inspiration, if you want to shop online with me, look up my tutorial bundles that I have for sale, all of those exciting things you will find on my website. So do go and head over at www.loveaduckie.co.uk, and if you are shopping with me this month, you'll find my host code on Facebook pages and websites and all sorts of places, so do use that as well. So that's that little bit over with. It did dawn on me after I'd shut down the video on Monday, and I was just quickly looking around to see if the cards that we made on Monday were nearby anywhere, but I think I've popped them away over there. But we were playing with the Sand and Sea Suite on Monday. And it reminded me that the reason that I'd decided to play with the Sand and Sea Suite in the first place was because coming up the end of March, in a couple of weeks' time, the Sand and Sea Suite is going to be... Lovely to have you with us, Lee. The Sand and Sea Suite is going to be the subject of the next Lily Pad Stamp Club, and that was why I'd used it. But I forgot to tell you all about the fact that it's going to be the subject of the next Lily Pad Stamp Club. I'm really good at coming on and playing and crafting with you. I need a little, PA beside me to go, Helen, you're supposed to be reminding them about any special offers. Helen, you're supposed to be reminding them about classes and things that are coming up. Hopeless. But if you have got the Sand and Sea Suite, if you would like the Sand and Sea Suite, then do consider, wherever you are in the world, coming and joining us in the Lily Pad Stamp Club, an exclusive Facebook group where you get... I should be pre-recording 8 videos using this suite. We do cards, we do scrapbook pages, we make bags, boxes, we do home decor projects, lots of things, and plus we have 2 live sessions over a 4-week period in there as well. Lots more inspiration gets thrown into that group, and it's there then for you to go back to. So as I say, wherever you are in the world, you can join that. You get free entry if you buy £45 or more worth of the Sand and Sea Suite products from me. But likewise, you can, if you've already got them, or if you're elsewhere in the world, or you have a demonstrator elsewhere, the subscription for that stamp club is £12.50 or the equivalent wherever you are. So you are very welcome to come and join us for that. So as I say, that is beginning on I think it's the 22nd of March. But that was Monday, so that's sort of like, Monday carried over. And I have put up a blog post this week with details of all my upcoming classes in the next few weeks. So do go and check that out, and do join us, whether it's online, whether it's via the post or whatever. Now, I was struggling to decide what to do this morning, what to play with. And I've gone to a set that is in the annual catalogue. I thought, let's go back to the annual catalogue. We tend to forget it with all the exciting things that we have in the mini catalogues. But obviously, the annual catalogue is just packed full of gorgeousness. And this is the Pretty Parasol set, which is just here. And then the one thing I haven't done is found the punch that goes with it, because obviously we've already got an umbrella set and a punch that coordinates, and the same punch coordinates with the parasol set, and here it is. So both the under the weather, or what's under my umbrella, the other one's called. So that's page 20. So let's have a look. So this was under the umbrella, came out first, That's this one here with the wellies, really fun little set. And then in the annual catalogue they brought out the pretty parasol. So obviously, you know, one for us ladies as we are out in the sunshine, taking our daily constitutional. You may need your parasol. But it also struck me that it's quite a nice one to be using. We were talking about ribbon earlier in the middle of the week and how to some ribbon techniques and things, and this is quite a nice one to be adding some fancy bits of ribbon and things to as well. So let's have a bit of a play with the pretty parasol. What to do with our pretty parasol. Let's start off by taking a bit of shimmery cardstock. Now, if I remember very well, and it seems like a very long time ago, those of you that did the retreat in a box last year would already have this stamp set. So this was one of the stamp sets, I'm sure, that we used in retreat in a box. So it'd be quite nice for those of you that have already got it to have some other ideas. I've got a piece of shimmery white here. I think I must remember to put another pack of that on my shopping list. So I've got a piece of shimmery white. I'm going to take some blending brushes, I think. Let's have blue. And let's take, what should we have? Some Pacific Point. Let's have some balmy blue. Let's go Misty Moonlight. Let's have 3 colours of blue. Let's see if we can do like a little ombre background, shall we? So I'm going to open up my pad. I'll open up my pads. There's the balmy blue. There's the Pacific Point. There's the Misty Moonlight. And we'll go tap, tap, tap and pick up some ink. Tap that off a bit. And then I'm going to come in on the bottom, swirling both ways. Obviously, because I'm on a glass mat here, any ink that goes over the edge is going to pick back up, which can be both a good thing and a bad thing. If you are changing colours drastically, don't forget that, because otherwise, you know, if I suddenly thought, oh, let's go to yellow, and then I'd suddenly wonder why I was getting streaks of blue. But that would be because the brush was picking up the ink. And it will even pick up the ink if you're doing it on paper to some extent. So do be aware of that. One of the things is if you're changing colour completely, either make sure that you wipe the mat underneath it or change the position that you're doing it in so that there's none of that colour to pick up. So you just keep going, building it until you're happy. Come up a little bit further. And I think I'm going to come in with some Pacific Point. This is obviously going to come in a bit darker. Blend together everywhere the two meet. I'll come back with a slightly paler one in a minute, but to finish off with, I'm going to come in with the Misty Moonlight on the top. I think when I'm overdue a haircut, I'm finding hair everywhere. Your question of, gosh, that's long. Is that one of mine? I think the answer is yes, it is. You'll always find that it's probably slightly darker where it hits the edge of the card when you first come in. But that actually gives it quite a nice framed effect. Let's come back down the colours. Add in a bit more specific point just there, because the more colour you're adding on, the more blending you get as the cardstock gets sort of saturated with ink. And then we'll come down to this balmy blue at the bottom. So I don't know how well that is going to show up, but it's a real pretty ombre as it goes down that cardstock. So that's just using 3 different colours of blue. Let's just grab a little bit of oddment of wisp white, basic white there. Yes, that will do nicely. And we'll have a nice parasol. What colour to go on there? Shall we go greens, purples? That's something like some Bermuda Bay. That might be quite nice. So I've got this solid parasol stamp here. Let's ink that up with our Bermuda Bay. And I've put a piercing mat underneath because this is a photopolymer stamp. So with your photopolymer stamps, you don't get that sort of natural sponging that you do with the rubber stamps. So particularly, there's obviously some hairs on that. Look at that pretty pattern that you've got there. Can you see? There's obviously something stuck to the surface of that stamp. So it's not something that obviously jumped out at me. But let's give the surface of that stamp a bit of a wipe. And we'll try again and see if we've managed to pick it off. That's another of those stray hairs. That's a bit better. So there we go, we've got a solid image there. But as I was saying, so if I grab here, this is a red rubber stamp. They come with this sponging already in them, whereas the photopolymers don't. So you often find that you need to add something underneath. So these piercing mats are perfect, and although they don't appear published in the magazines, they are in the catalogues, they are still available. I think I went through and put some stickers in all of the catalogues, but if you can't find them and you do want one, let me know. So useful for so many things, but particularly for photopolymer stamps, and particularly if it is solid images, because you just need that bit of sponge underneath. Now let's see if I've got that bit of card about right. I think we have. So let's punch out our solid parasol. Then I've got this sort of really pretty pattern piece. Now I could have stamped that directly over the top there to add pattern to it. The other stamp that you've got in here that you can use to add patterns to your parasol is this little one just here, and then you've also got these lacy bits, so you can add in these lacy bits as well, all very pretty. But I'm going to find a bit of vellum, I do believe. And I'm going to take some Versamark and some, shall we go silver or shall we go gold? I think with those colours, I think we're going to go silver. We'll have some silver embossing powder. And let's ink up our pretty patterned. Now, what I haven't done is brush this with my embossing buddy, so let's see how forgiving it's going to be. Oh, I think we got away with that quite lightly actually, as we're punching that shape out anyway. Oh, apologies. Heat up this heat tool, and obviously being on vellum, because the paper is so much thinner, it goes much quicker, because the paper underneath it gets hotter much quicker. And there we are, we have a silver embossed piece on the top. Let's punch that out. We're going to layer that over our Bermuda Bay. Very pretty. Now actually, when I was looking in my vellum scraps just now, I happened to spot a piece of vellum, look at this, that I'd embossed previously with the, let's just find it, not that one. It's called lace, isn't it, something? Here we go. It is just lace, Lace 3D. The Lace 3D embossing folder. There's some vellum that I've embossed with the lace embossing lace 3D lace embossing folder. I'm going to think I'm going to stamp myself another solid image. I'm going to go Misty Moonlight with this one. It's just too good to miss, isn't it? That bit of embossed vellum. It's like, oh, that would make a pretty parasol. Let's punch that one out. So if we're going to do 2, we're going to need to do 3, aren't we? Because you can't just have things in pairs. We'll need to go for a 3rd parasol. Give that a good wipe. And I think for the 3rd one, let's go fun, isn't it? It was only that I happened to see that in there and thought, oh, that's really pretty. Embossed vellum is just beautiful, isn't it? And it just really softens. You can sort of take a really dark colour and really soften it up, can't you? Right, so this one we're not going to put vellum over the top because we're going to use a paler colour. So let's make this one Coastal Cabana. What I might do with this one is take that little flowery image and let's go Bermuda Bay. Let's go slightly darker. I'm going to sort of line that up where that's dipped and line it up again this side where that dips, and then we've got a pretty excellent good day for a furlough day, Carolina. Friday, need them to be Fridays or Mondays. And thank you, it's good. I always enjoy our games nights. They're good fun. They're good fun for me too. It doesn't feel like working. I'm hanging out with a bunch of friends having a good time. I'm always hanging out with a bunch of friends having a good time. That's what these are all about. Right, so there we have 3 different parasols there. Now the other challenge, of course, with vellum is attaching it. So in order to attach it, we need to be very careful. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some glue dots because whatever adhesive you use, however careful you try to be, you can sort of sponge some glue on the back. That helps a little bit, but whatever you do, it does tend to show through. So it's almost like accepting that and working out what you're going to do to cover the glue on the other side. So I'll put some 3 little glue dots on there. It doesn't show too badly, but I can come in a minute and add in some rhinestones or something on that just to make sure that we cover those. This one will show, it will not show quite so much because the vellum is patterned. glue dot on my nail. Don't think I need you, thank you. If you stay on there, you're just going to cause problems later on. You'll stick to something. So let's put that on our blue one. And you can definitely see, look where I've pushed that down. Can you see where the glue dots are poking through? But again, we'll find something for that. So what we need to do is decide where those are going to go. Let's add in some lace. So there's a couple of lacy bits in here. And these you can just stamp along the bottom of where your parasol would go. So let's try Bermuda Bay. Move these out the way for now. Turn it round. Now if you have a look carefully at this stamp, I don't know if you can see, you've got like two little legs coming up either side. That's the bit that you're going to have hanging down from behind your parasol. So it's going to sit on the top like that. And then I'm going to take an arm of a parasol, and I think I'll stick with Bermuda Bay. We'll have that coming down there. So this one, and because these are going on as separate bits, we haven't got to worry about them overlapping and things necessarily. That one going on there. Of our lace trim just there. To add some tape going across the back here. Pull that off. Tuck that end bit in so it's not showing on the other side. Oh, lovely, Jane. We've forgotten what that is over here, having visitors, having people allowed in the house. So we're just playing with some parasols, because obviously we're all genteel ladies here. For all of those that have, you know, got a bit of all binge watched Bridgerton or love your period dramas. And there we are. Let's stick a little bit of lace on there. So this hasn't got a stamped lace, this has got a real lace on that particular parasol, and I shall put some dimensionals under there to raise that up. I think we're going to stick with the same sticky stick. But this time we'll go in Misty Moonlight. And then we've got this little parasol just here. We'll go back to Bermuda Bay, I think, for that one. And we'll use the other stamp for our frilly bit. To pop these other two on so that they're a fixed point at this point. And let's pop a couple of dimensionals on there. Layer that up nicely so we have our lace trim on the bottom. And let's come in with this one. Sorry, that was a bit of a sigh, wasn't it? It's got a bit of a twingy back this morning, which isn't good news. So let's ink this one up with Bermuda Bay again. Again, making sure that the sticky bits on each side let's just avoid that stick just there. And let's come in with our stick coming down here. Oh, managed to get a blob on there. Right, so we've got some pretty greetings in here. You make the day brighter. It's a happy day. Thank you for being my sunshine. Wishing you, can't read that one. Wishing you warmth and sunshine. That's nice, isn't it? Let's have It's a Happy Day. I'll stamp that onto a piece of white. Oh no, slightly bigger block. And we'll have that in Misty Moonlight. Let's just snip that. Oh, there's my big scissors. I'll go for those because just find it easier to colour shall we have behind there? Yep, I think we'll go Bermuda Bay. I think we'll have a... Oh, is that gone? I had a basic white card base just there just now. Find a little bit of Bermuda Bay, rustle, that we can back that greeting on. Glue doesn't want to play this morning. It's saying no, I've had enough, it's been a long week, give me a rest. Let's try that one instead. So I never measure these things, it always is by eye, but obviously if you are more comfortable getting your ruler out and measuring them, then that is absolutely fine. Let me just clear a little bit of debris either way. Let's cut this mat. To 10 by 14.4. We'll put our... Have I picked up the one that's not working? Yes. Typical. Let's try picking up the one that was working. That's better. We'll stick that onto our Bermuda Bay. Put it down in a minute, just deciding whether or not bring in some pretties. I think because it's parasols, we'll have pearls on this. Ooh. Or we would if it didn't run away. Come here. So we'll just put some pearls over where we had our glue dots on the top here. That one doesn't show quite so much. I think this one here, where it is showing a bit more, I'm going to go for some opal rounds. Let's have one bigger pearl in the top there. This one hasn't got any glue dots that we're trying to disguise. And we'll have some diddy pearls in the points just here. And obviously this is where parasols, you know, hold slight sway. Ooh, where have you come from? Little red resin heart. You are beautiful, but I don't think you're right for this project. So we've got some beautifully decorated parasols. I'm just wondering, digging around in my little tubs of bits and pieces. So frustrating when you can't find what you're looking for. I'm looking for my whale sequins, because those are, there's some sort of nice greens and blues in. At the moment I can see everything but, there they are. So this pot of sequins got these sort of nice greens and blues in, which would work perfectly and would be sort of quite nice and sparkly in the background. So let's just have a few little sequins, which go for 5. Pick out these sort of greeny ones just here. So we currently have a couple of current sets of pots of sequins like this. One is this whale one, and the other one is the woven threads, which go with the outgoing in colours, if that makes sense, if you can be outgoing and incoming. And one just there. With a pretty sparkle in the background. So there we go. It's a real opportunity to play with your pretties, isn't it? Because you can really pretty up your parasols, depending obviously on your outfit. The other thing that I thought, so we've done a bit of lace, we've added a bit of lace trim, thinking about our ribbons that we were playing with the other day. The other thing I've still got sitting here, look, that does seem to suggest that it might belong to a parasol, is the tassel that we made. So if you weren't with me on Wednesday in the Dear Mrs. Duckie when we were talking about ribbons, I actually made this tassel out of some of our twine. So let's see if we can incorporate that, and I think perhaps for that one we'll use the sort of partially closed parasol here. I think we'll take, let's go with a fancy floral frame, shall we? I think we're going to go with this one. So let's cut ourselves a fancy floral frame. We'll have our parasol stamped within it. Let's find the stitched rectangle that will go with that, and that one. So I think fancy frame will do in Blushing Bride, because obviously that's the colour of the twine that we've got. Have I got a big enough bit? No. Let's find cut ourselves a bit of Blushing Bride and cut ourselves a frame. So we've done the greens and blues, now we're going to go in the pink. How much does that card need to be? So if I go about 12.5 centimetres, I think, and then about 8.5, that should be big enough for that frame. So I'm going to cut that through and cut it from Blushing Bride, and then we'll have a piece of basic white for that stitched triangle on the front. I've just made a guesstimate of 8 by 12. If anything, that's bigger than I need it. So let's cut those. Now this very ornate frame is going to take a couple of run-throughs in the machine. That is not because anything is wrong with the machine or anything is wrong with the die. It is just because it is a really fancy die. And if you were to try and cut that out by hand, so I've literally done this through once. So my rectangle is going to pop out beautifully. So there's nothing wrong with my machine. But if I turn this over, you can see down these edges, it's not quite caught. And it just is about asking the machine to do too much. I'm going to turn it round the other way to which it went through before. And I'm going to turn it over. Morning, Glenda. Or evening, Glenda. Or morning for us. So you can see I've turned that over and I've turned it round, and now you can see that that's ready to pop out of there, just like that. So sometimes the more intricate dies do need just a little bit, you know, to be run through a couple of times. There's nothing that you're doing wrong. There's nothing wrong with the dies. It just is about the job that you're asking them to do is a tough job. And sometimes tough jobs take us a little bit longer to achieve. Where's my pokey tool with a brush on gone? I've got my tool that I've got the embossing end and the sticky. We had the other one earlier, so it can't be far away. Well, it's those borrowers. If any of you saw my post yesterday for World Book Day, I asked the question, borrowers, are they real or fiction? They're definitely real here. You see, that thing was here just now. Gone. The borrowers obviously tune in to the videos and go, oh, that'd be useful. Just nip and borrow that while she's got her back turned, die cutting. I'll bring it back later so she thinks she's going mad. But they're gorgeous frames, aren't they? They take some work. They take a couple of running throughs. You do have to poke all your little bits out. But can you imagine sitting down with a craft knife and trying to create this? Some people do. But not me. Knowing my luck, I'd get nearly to the end and cut it wrong or something. So obviously if I'd got my brush, I'd have just brushed this out. There'll always be one, you'll think you've got them all, and then you stick it on your card and spot a little one that hasn't come out. So there we have a really pretty pink frame. And stitched rectangle, and those stitched rectangles do line up with these frames beautifully. I'm going to give that a bit of knock on the side, and that will knock some of the bits out, but I'll need to go back in and get those little bits that are still stuck in the frame out before I put it away. It is one of those things that if you think that you can get away with it, you know, and it won't matter, actually you will find eventually that your die won't cut, because there's nowhere for your card to go to die cut. So there we go, we've got a pretty frame, and we've got a bit on the top. We're going to have our tassel coming in somewhere because, well, we need to use it, don't we? So let's have a look at our little folded up parasol here. So really pretty, it already has a nice pattern on the bottom. So I think we need to go blushing bride with that, don't we? Actually, what I am going to do before I do that is I'm going to I'm actually going to come in. I've got my pink blending brush here. Let's tap that off, else we'll have a blob. I'm just going to put a pink blush on this card, so it's not quite starkly white. And then I'm going to ink up my parasol. Stamp that over the top of my pink blush, so it's sort of yeah, not starkly white. Now the reason I did it that way round and brushed the card before I stamped the parasol is that if I'd have stamped the parasol and then brushed over the top of it, the blending brushes would have blended that stamped image as well. The ink in the stamped image would have also started to blend, so you'd have had it'd been a bit more smudgy. So you're better to do your background before you do your stamping, unless you're using something like Stays On, which, as we all know, stays on. So that wouldn't blend. But if you've got any of your water-based inks, if you blend over the top of them, they will blend as well, which you might want to happen sometimes, but not on this occasion. So there we go, and you can see if I put that up against the white, how that is just a soft pink then in the background. Now we have some little tassels that go with this particular parasol. I think we're going to stick with make sure we got our thing up the right way. We'll ignore that for a minute. They'll either leave a message or ring back. So there's our tassel, and there's a very good chance it's somebody that I don't want to speak to anyway, and even if I had been free I'd have ignored it. Often find that. Oh no, international number, ignoring that. That's going to be somebody asking me about the accident I've apparently happened, or telling me that my Amazon account is blocked and I need to pay £70 to reinstate it, or whatever else the other scams there are going around. Right, shall we have the other handle for this one? So this one we could punch out. You can punch this little handle, but we won't. Hi Angie. We're having a Bridgerton moment. We're playing with parasols. I'm going to take this little flower image and I'm going to add them to these bottom corners. Let's have the "You Make My Day Brighter." We'll have that in there as well. I'm going to stick that directly onto now. I'm just wondering, looking to see what I've done with I've obviously buried the papers that I'm looking for. I had them the other day. Aha, here they are. Have I got any blushing bride paper in here that I can call on, or have I used all the blushing bride up? No, I have some just there. So let's go with a white card base. Cut at 14.9. Nearly. Score at 10.5. That was nearly one of those disastrous moments. Okay, have fun, Jackie. Let's cut a piece of this paper so that it's 10 by 14.4. And we're going to go this sort of almost denim-y look in the background there. I'm going to take some of this twine that round a couple of times. This is where I want the end pokey tool bit. Let's find an old pokey tool bit. Poke that through there. And tuck that under there so that that holds it in place. I'm going to tie this for now, but I can always come back and tweak the positioning on that in a moment. Yeah, I have got one somewhere, Angie, just up here. Let's cut the end of that twine, shall we? It'll make that so much easier to deal with, won't it? And I'll worry about those ends in a minute. Let's stick this on there. I'm going to not put glue over the piece where the twine is, then if I do need to twiddle it, I should still have a little bit of leeway there. So let's stick that down. Let's bring in our frame. And we'll pop some dimensionals on the back of there. Oh, there's nothing like a bit of girly pink, is there, for your parasol? Just snip those off there, like that. And come in with some pastel pearls. Let's stick with the pink. Oh, there we go. Very girly. So, we went back to the annual catalogue and we dug out the Pretty Parasol stamp set, which coordinates with the umbrella punch. But unlike the umbrellas, you can go really mad with lace and vellum and pearls and pretty things. So there's two little parasol cards, something for a change. So when you're out promenading this weekend, you may feel inspired to make yourself a parasol card. So thank you for joining me. As I say, do go and check out my website. Do come and join me for classes, catchy ups, all those things that are going on. Have a lovely, lovely weekend, everybody, and I will be back on Monday morning. So see you then.